that I wasn't critical, and she felt that I was critical. So we didn't understand this concept or this Coach Myron.
Yeah.
So when she really realized, oh, he's not necessarily being critical,
right?
He's coaching.
Yes.
And that's what he does. He always want to make things better. So she began to look at it a little different than, okay, he's not been, now she didn't like it, but I feel like you received it a little different to where, okay, I don't like it, but he's not being critical of me.
But that also came with, hey, we're different. But when you're in it,
that's right.
When you are in it, it feels like you don't like me. Yeah. It feels like you don't like me. Girl. I'm not enough for you, and I'm just not it. I'm not it for you.
Listen,
and I would say I've said that to you before. Like,
listen, y'all.
You are not happy with me. Like you find a problem with everything, and I don't like that. And of course, because you're female and you get in your feelings. But I have a problem with this, or when you said this, and when you're constantly highlighting a problem, when you're constantly highlighting, oh, this is something that I didn't get right, it's just like that hurts at the moment, especially if you are dealing with your own set of insecurities. If these are areas that I'm not all the way secure in, and again, you are bringing more attention to either another area or the same area that I'm not secure in, you are constantly validating the fact that I am not enough. So now there's this feeling of, yes, I'm not enough for you. So if I'm not enough for you, and out of my actions come from an overflow of what is in my heart and in my mind and in my beliefs, I act out what I truly believe. If I feel like, or if I believe in my heart of hearts that I'm not enough for you, it is going to be very hard for me to give you what you need, because I ultimately do not feel like I'm enough for you.
This right here is a much needed conversation, because I feel like there are countless women in this position that haven't been successful with communicating where the difficulty is. If you are with a man that has good leadership qualities, there's a chance you have had difficulty with this as well. Because when you're in those type of circumstances, a man wants to lead, therefore he wants to teach. But is he proficient at being able to teach and or coaching? Because the technique that you use to communicate what you would like to happen going forward, there's a fine line between that being perceived as constructive criticism versus having a very criticized experience. And this will make the difference as to how you're received by your female counterpart. So make sure you are communicating in a way that she can understand. Now you hear this woman right here who is, I believe, the wife of the man on here as well. Forgive me if I have that incorrect. This is just basing what I know off this specific clip. And she was able to speak about her experience going through the same exact thing. And while she's discussing her experience, her husband is speaking about how he was perceived as being really, really critical, even though his intention was just coaching and making everything better. Now, on the flip side, when you speak to her, she's saying that she understands what he's trying to accomplish. So her perception of who he is has changed, and she's more accepting of the experience. However, in the moment, while she's experiencing this moment from him where he's trying to make sure that she performs better going forward, she says that the experience is typically more so feeling like you're not enough, feeling like you can't get anything right. Not only that, but feeling like your spouse doesn't even like you. And if you're a woman in that position, you may want to stay here just for a moment to hear the rest of this conversation. Ladies, I completely understand that if you're dealing with a man with good leadership qualities, a masculine man, you will have conversations about growth, development, and that is a good thing to have in your relationships. But the delivery does make all the difference, especially if he wants you to be receptive to what you hear. because your average man has been raised to, in a sense, not tap so much into being emotional, but more so to adjust to the realities of life. Men tend to be a lot more direct and or blunt when speaking. You'll notice this when they communicate with each other. Between two men, they tend to not pull any punches because they tend to be able to tolerate having conversations that do not have a lot of filters on them. However, when you're dealing with women, they tend to need those filters a little bit more because they're highly sensitive and they have a tendency to connect their experience with their self-worth. And this can be a very negative experience if they feel like how you're perceiving them or correcting them affects how you see them. This can lower their self-esteem and decrease productivity if it's not received in a positive light. Whereas if you're talking to a man, men tend to kind of pull up their bootstraps and get with the program, regardless of how truthful or harsh the critique may be. Women tend to kind of need you to handle them with kid gloves a little bit. So if you really need her to put this into practice, show a little care and sensitivity. So it is my recommendation that if you're trying to constructively criticize another person, focus on the benefits or the attributes of that person. So if they don't clean up very much and you would like them to clean up more, offer them opportunities to clean a little bit more instead of saying, "You never clean. It's filthy in here." All of those things automatically make a person feel like they've done something wrong. It causes them to shrink, and it's a very negative experience to be had, as opposed to approaching her and saying, "Babe, the house normally looks beautiful and everything has its place. What's wrong? Are you feeling okay?" And digging into how she feels, you're showing her that you care. You've taken under consideration that something may be going wrong with her instead of picking at the thing that's been done incorrectly. You show care and nurture and ask her, is there anything going on with her? So she says to herself in her mind, he noticed that I'm a little down and out and actually took the time to check on me. Her first order of business after having an experience like that will be to get up and clean the first sign she feels better. See, most women need to know that you're not bypassing their well-being, their possible thoughts, distractions, and how their day was just to point out a flaw in their day. It tends to fluster a woman completely and entirely makes her frustrated because it makes her feel unseen. If you manage to see her throughout the day doing dishes, laundry, so on and so forth, but focus your attention on the one thing she wasn't able to accomplish, she receives that criticism as you didn't see everything else that she put her energy into. You didn't see the things that she accomplished throughout the day. And it seems as though you have walked deliberately by everything that she had done successfully to stand next to the thing that she hadn't completed. And that can make a person feel unappreciated, unseen, and also feel heavily criticized, and it will create that impression that you don't like them very much. Because in most situations, when you like someone, you tend to not pick at the little things because you understand things happen. People forget, people get tired, that kind of thing. And when you love someone, you tend to do that for that person even more. But the less you like them, the less patience you have. A person that doesn't like you tends to become more so a micromanager. They like to oversee and second guess everything that you do. And when you're having that type of experience with your spouse, I'm sorry, but it creates an experience that makes a person feel unwanted, unloved, and frankly not needed in this relationship. In these circumstances, the person that's being constructively criticized has an experience with hearing more bad or negative reviews on their performance and or demonstration, more so than being complimented and supported and lifted up. And when you experience high percentages in negativity and low percentages in positivity, you automatically assume something is wrong. But from the flip side, when you're dealing with a man's perspective, that's not the case at all. You can literally be passing in every area of his requirements and or expectations, but he wants to focus on this one area so he can help it improve. Now, for you as the woman, you feel like you're doing everything great and this person's focusing on one area when everything else is so great. As a man, he's saying everything is great except this area right here that we need to work on. And when two people are coming from opposite perspectives but trying to find a resolution, it may come off to him like you're never listening because all you want to talk about is what you have accomplished throughout the day. And then on her end, it may come off like you just want to criticize and you want to make her feel small when all you're trying to do is help her better an area that you believe she is fully capable in evolving in. And because of those hits and misses with the communication, the woman walks away feeling belittled, shrunken, and feeling like she's not enough to please him. And then he walks away feeling like he is not going to get his needs met, like she's selfish and just considering herself, perhaps lacking the ability to take accountability, and so much more. When all this that really needs to happen is a much better discussion. It is a lot easier to communicate to a person that you need something else to happen when you're filling them with love and positivity. When you see a mistake being made, ask a question for clarity, because just because you have a better way of doing things via your perception does not mean that they don't also have a better way of doing things. If you see something odd, say, is there a significance as to why you do that? Develop an understanding. And if for some reason you see that it doesn't work, offer an alternative as a response to continue the discussion. Then she doesn't feel criticized, you feel heard, and hopefully you guys can wrap up the discussion with everyone's needs being met and both parties being understood. But unfortunately, because we feel that relationships should work in a particular way, our expectations say that responses should look like particular things, we tend to botch these conversations when they can run substantially smoother if you just really think about what you're trying to communicate. If you have a wife that cooked you a fantastic meal, but it was a little too salty, you don't want to say, dang, you oversalted the food, or hold the salt, or you know what I mean, criticize her in a way to make it seem like the food is nasty, when you can say, babe, this was delicious. Next time you make it, just hold back a little bit on the salt, but other than that, it's perfect. Don't get me wrong, a person can find imperfection with any statement. So you may find people that have a problem with that delivery system as well. But most people will be able to accept that constructive criticism and understand that you really enjoyed the dish. It just was pushing a little bit on the salty side, as opposed to making all the faces and gasping and creating an experience for her like you hated it from the beginning. A good teacher, a good coach, understands that being effective is determined by the person you're communicating with being able to absorb what you have to say and apply it. If that person cannot absorb what you're saying and have a thorough understanding in a way that could be applied to their life, you haven't effectively taught them. You haven't been a good demonstration. So we have to focus on the goal at hand, because sometimes we do get on our high horse, and when you see someone do something less than up to par in your opinion, you automatically get a nice little dose of a superiority complex. And if you let that take over your ego, your pride, you may let it manifest in your voice, your tone, your actions to create a negative experience for your partner, when in reality, you should be processing that maybe this person didn't know any better. Maybe they've never been taught about this particular thing. And when you're trying to communicate and keep their ears open in a way that they can be receptive to what you have to say, make sure to always couple a negative with a positive so they can cancel each other out instead of creating a negative experience. So if you need to correct something, say, I know you're strong and you can do this on your own. However, I know that it's your desire to do this and you're really great at it, though. Try to advise in a way that's not inflammatory. Try to advise in a way that doesn't create an accusation. Try to assume that they're trying their best and putting their best foot forward, and then incorporate a reason why this change in their life will be good for them. So if I'm trying to cut carrots and I'm having a difficult time, instead of my husband coming up to me and saying, move, you're doing it wrong, you'll mess around and cut yourself moving like that. Instead of approaching her with that negative energy, she would already be feeling like I've done something wrong. You see what I'm saying? Come over to her and grab her hand and say, babe, I don't want you to cut yourself. This can be very dangerous if you do it this way. Here, let me show you. Now, all of a sudden, her logic behind allowing him to show her a better way is prioritizing her safety, not criticizing her efforts from the start. Do you understand? There's a way that you can communicate with her without bruising her ego and pride, so she can allow her ears to stay open and be receptive to what you have to say. I get it. Sometimes we don't want to modify and filter ourselves for the people we love, but understand that's necessary because you don't want to break down her confidence and create insecurity within her. It's a genuinely beautiful thing to want to help those in your family grow and evolve. However, you want to be successful in your ability to teach or coach, and you want to do this by helping them grow and advance themselves while keeping their identity, their self-worth, value, and overall identity intact. When you overly criticize your partner without making sure to tell them what they do well and what you love about them, you eventually start to tip the scale against them. Well, at least that's their perception. Because if they're consistently needing to fix and alter themselves at every turn, then it's hard for them to understand why you're with them, why you chose them, why you love them, and if they're even enough to keep you in the long run. You don't realize, but your efforts to help this person be the best that they can be can simultaneously cause the destruction of your relationship. And it's all in the foundation. It's all in your delivery and what you want to communicate. If you're too frustrated and you've already had a bad day, that may not be the best time to communicate improvement over another person. You tend to lack patience and understanding for communicating the simplest of things. Communicate when you're in a good place, you're ready to pay attention and teach however long it takes. As for the men, my final thoughts is just remember she is not male, okay? As much as men are comfortable with having this type of tactless conversation at times, very blunt and straightforward, women have a very low tolerance for that type of conversation when it comes from somebody that they love and greatly admire and respect, okay? Yes, I'm sure you guys have seen women participate in harsh conversations, but understand their perception of who they're having these conversations with is greatly impacted, and it factors into how a woman is able to receive it. She has to care about you greatly in order for her to have such a difficult time processing the inability to complete certain objectives and being assessed by you. The more your opinions matter to her, the more she will be affected by the things that you say. So you have to be careful and be kind with her heart, because she wants to fulfill you. She wants to make you happy, but she also wants to hear about the things that she may have been less than successful at completing in a loving and supportive way. The minute she feels like she's defeated and she can't accomplish her goal, she will ultimately assume she has lost you, and you will see her give up in the relationship. And I know that's not what you are trying to accomplish in your efforts for improvement and to fix things. Keep in mind your end all be all is harmony within your relationship, understanding when you guys are holding a dialogue, and love. If you get too overwhelmed with over criticizing your partner, you will push that person away. Give them some encouragement. Let them know the areas that they are successful and let them know that you're proud of them. I get that we all want to grow, but understand it takes a lot of praise to erase every negative thing that pierces a person's heart. And there's no reason to create that situation if you can just uplift them from the beginning. Remember that even when you're trying to help someone see the possibilities in their journey, you are more than welcome to encourage them by bringing things up about them in relationship to their past, to say you've been successful in these areas, you got this, I believe in you. Encourage her. Say you're very creative, I think because of your level of creativity this would be a no-brainer for you. Build her up, and remember, everything you pour into her is supposed to come back to you tenfold. So give her your best. Peace.